Some people try and make AI solve problems that their own thinking has caused and their lack of clarity is currently causing.
I sometimes wonder, are these AI agents actually just slaves? But that's a topic for another discussion.
I still say if you own your list, man, you own your freedom. That's the one thing I think people can do that they don't do every day is just build leads every single day.
So I want to gamify my business. I start my day talking to the AI about what's going to move the business, and then we compete against each other. And I can't hide. It knows everything that I'm doing.
You are talking to your Claude Code like it's a human, and you want it to hear you like a human, but to think and see in front of you like agents would see, not like humans would see.
That is what Superpowers does. It is getting into the DNA of the output that you want. Perfect output. Welcome to another episode of the Wicked Smart Podcast. Today, we start out with a heated discussion between us about what an agent actually should be doing in your business. And we go to battle a little bit, and then we form a consensus. Todd really wanted to break this down that anybody could get access to this. So Todd takes everything that we do in this episode, he deconstructs it down, and it basically became the theme of this episode. Todd does to us what we do to Claude Code and AI. We ask more questions and we go into a deep dive. That's what Todd did to us, and you're going to get a lot out of it. Get ready for the Wicked Smart Podcast.
We're dropping truth, baby.
It didn't give us a countdown. So we're in right now. All right, Rich.
And we're live.
Yes, we're live. And
just
we were just talking
at the camera.
We were just talking about, I was making a complaint to you guys, and it's a complaint that's like parallel to complaints I've had in the past many years ago. I used to complain about people who were interested in maybe getting coached by me, and they'd ask me, well, if I'm getting coached by you, how much am I going to be making in like 3 months from now? Which to me is like a stupid question. It shows how naive someone is about business, because anyone that would answer that question also would be lying to them. But anyway, I'm wrapping up a course.
I always felt terrible that I asked you that question.
Yeah, I know. 5 times too, not even like once.
Look how it worked out for you. Look how it worked out.
But I'm finishing up a course today, and we check in with people every day and ask them like, how confident they are they're going to succeed and all this kind of stuff, and what do they still need to know. And people who kind of get it and are moving their business forward, they've designed lots of agents to do lots of things. But there's a few people that have like made the request that they want an agent that grows their business. And I'm like sitting in front of my computer last night, like, okay, how do I design an agent that grows their business? Like, what is it specifically going to do on Monday? What is it specifically going to do on Tuesday? What is it specifically going to do on Wednesday? And there are no specifics. And that person like has no insight about their business if they are trying to think of a generic thing that's going to grow their business, as opposed to the specific things that, if done frequently, would grow their business. And so I think like some people try and make AI solve problems that their own thinking has caused and their lack of clarity is currently causing. And I'm just curious, like, I'm sure we all have parallels of this, like of people like wanting something, but like they don't even know the right thing to be asking.
Yeah, I think, and I'm curious John's take on this too, because we've been spending the last couple of years really seeing this coming and then trying to converge our methodology with the technology and adapting there. And I think the way that I look at it is 2 things. One, we're trying to replace our current workflows. Like, what employee in the company can either grab onto these tools to make their jobs more effective, more affordable, and just get us better results and faster, right? Like, how can I empower my current team? And then eventually, I'm not, and I swear to God, I'm not looking to replace anybody because we don't have that big a staff anymore right now. It's to replace the people that are no longer here anyway, because, we've downsized tremendously over the years. So I start with looking at the current role, like, what is the current role of who was the copywriter, and how does that work now? How about video editing? What was the process and the workflow and the tools that we use now, and how has that been replaced? Well, we don't need to use these tools anymore. We can use these tools. And then I think the other thing is we have to look at what was never possible before, because it's like, I'll just give an example. Oh man. And I always feel bad, like all this politically correct stuff, because I name a country, but I'm just going to say it, right? Whatever. Like, man, I wish I could just like have a team of 1,000 people in the Philippines that could do this. If I could only do that. And then you're like, yeah, but even if I had the 1,000 people, that's still slavery. Like, I mean, like to get people to literally just do that wouldn't even be humane, right? Because like they'd be just clicking, scraping, like, and now those things are possible. And, I sometimes wonder is like, are these AI agents actually just slaves? Right. But that's a topic for another discussion.
But I also think that I'm just curious, like there aren't that many things. I don't think there are very many things for me. I'm Todd, I'm curious, like if it's for you or John, you or Mike or Donnie, like there aren't many things that if I did this every day, this one specific thing, like my business would double. There's not a lot of things like that. Like one specific thing.
Yeah, there is for me. I can tell you what I'm actually working on right now. And that is, it's really simple. And I'm going to go old school here. Email marketing still works. I know it's shocking to say in today's day and age, but email marketing still works, at least for the time being. So I don't know how many of you guys agree with that, but I do. And if you do it right, it works really, really well. So I had a real simple goal is like, I want an agent to help me increase my leads every single day, do something every single day to increase leads in multiple different ways. So I just said, here's like 12 different ways to do that, from social media posts to shorts to reaching out for podcasts, to sending an email to the list, to create a viral campaign, whatever I can do to just increase the leads and just start just chipping away and getting that list, because the traffic, as everyone knows, traffic is a little bit tough right now. But I still say, if you own your list, man, you own your freedom. So that's my stance on it. So that's the one thing I think people can do that they don't do every day, is just build leads every single day and reach out to those leads every single day. And agents are getting better and better at reaching out to the leads. They're getting better and better at being able to talk to them and have real human conversations. And when it's the right time, filter it over to a human being. What do you guys think about
John? That was you just gave me a damn good idea.
I disagree, because that's not the kind of answer that I'm talking about. There are lots of little things that if you ignore in your business, if you do them, you're making more business. Like, we should send an email every day, period. That's the end of the discussion there.
Right.
What is it that if you spent more time doing today, your business would be making more money? Like, specific, like there's no limit. Like, you could spend 2 hours and your business will make more money. If you spend 3 hours a day, your business would make even more money, because that's the kind of question that is being answered by, I need an agent that makes my business more money. Like, so it's just going to run on autopilot and make you more money, doing things that like more and more and more.
Rich, you said you haven't. You said you haven't seen it in your business, but you have, right? Like you've been able.
Oh, no. I mean, look, there are lots of things that your agent can do on a daily basis that will make your business more money. Very small, specific things, right? Like an agent that it confirms every single person that's going to your webinars will make your business more money on webinar show up rate. But that's not an agent designed to grow your business. That's an agent designed to actually get more people to show up on a webinar. When more people show up on a webinar, your business makes more money.
Gotcha.
Right?
So
but you don't start
on the
with
macro,
this global
on the macro.
thing.
You don't just go make this employee and walk away and come back in a month. You're saying there's a lot of these little micro steps that you're doing that are making your emails better, making your presentations better.
Because agents aren't at a place yet where like John can just say, get me leads every day. He'd have to like break up. What are the 12 tasks? What are all the different activities that it could choose from? Like, so it's already getting into specifics, as opposed to an agent that makes me money every day. Or an agent that grows my business.
There's no action that you can have the agent do that's like, make me more money, right? There are actions that can lead to making more money.
I want to break this down, because if I have, just follow me for a second. I have an agent that says, I want you to go out and just walk with me through this fictional example. I have an agent that goes, I will find you qualified leads. I'll find you 30 qualified leads today from your three different sources that you tell it to go to, whether it's a chat here or it's a LinkedIn there, whatever it may be, right? Let's say that it's going 30 to 50 leads a day, right? And it's going to also email those 30 or 50 leads in some way, form, or fashion. It's going to contact those 30, 50 leads. Those 30, 50 leads, maybe 5 to 10 get on your list. And then then it goes into just basic list automation kind of thing. So at the end of the day, let's say you turn one of those into a customer. Now we're talking very small numbers here, right? but that's growing your business. That's exactly what that's doing. That's making my business more money. That person didn't exist in my ecosystem until the agents went out and found it.
Yeah, we're not arguing whether an agent can make you money. We're talking about like the request and what you're thinking of, and if you know the specific steps, like that's not
like
a
when
one.
Somebody asked Rich, I want an agent that doubles my business, right? And so Rich's question to him was like, so what does that person do, right? They're not strategizing what you just said, John, right? They just want to hand it off to the agent and not have the human in the loop, you know?
Yeah, I understand, but I'm saying like, I mean, you double my email list, I'm going to double my business. I'm just Todd. I think that you would echo this. I mean, you sent out like a ton of bullet campaigns at the first of the year.
Yeah,
and
I think. Look, I think so. Rich, with what John's saying, like, look, let's say that right now, you know, John was contacting, you know, let's say without an agent, he was reaching out to 30 leads or 30 potential leads, whatever it is. And that went from 30 to 60 to 300 to 600 to, right. He's going to, based on his model, he's going to substantially grow his business. Would you agree with that?
Well, I don't know. Let's and I don't mean to be dickish, but I guess I will be a little bit. If we're so certain that it would grow his business, that's a relatively easy agent to build. Does he have it currently? Because if he doesn't, then why is he just leaving money on the table? If it's so guaranteed his business would make more money from it, then why doesn't he have it? Or why doesn't he immediately build it as soon as this call is done? Because there's money on the table and it's just that it would.
That's a different topic.
It's actually being
built
built
right now. That's if it was so certain.
Being built right now.
Yeah, it's actually built right now. This is something I've already come up with.
It was already being built. That's the way.
Basically, here's where this came from, and I guarantee you, everyone on this call will be able to relate to this. It's like we just went to a new ESP. And they need to get at least 3 pieces of content a week to send out to the list.
Sure.
And I don't know about you guys, but that until AI came along, that was a real pain in the ass to do. Just to sit there and go, okay, crap, I got to get this email banged out, blah 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 blah, because everything comes up and gets in the way. Well, what I want is a real time thing, and things I'm talking about right now, or courses that I've done in the past. The AI scrape it, they write in my language, they send it out, they're connected to the ESP, and it just sends out. So boom, the content's out. Okay, that's a super simple example of how an agent will actually make me more money, because I'm nurturing the list that I would not be doing otherwise because I'm a lazy bastard. So I'm just giving just straight real world stuff.
You're confusing an agent making you money and an agent designed to make you money. Or an agent that you run in your business, that your business makes money, and an agent designed to make your business money. They're two different things. I think
you guys are just battling over semantics right now.
Yeah. This is sophistry at best, man.
I totally get what you're saying, Rich.
This is just sophistry.
It feels like semantics to me.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll say something that we all agree on. Basically, what we're saying is when Rich has somebody that says, I want an agent to make me money, they're not doing what John's doing and saying, oh, well, if I wanted to make money, I would need to, if I could double my leads, I could double my business. Like they're just saying, I just want this agent that I call CMO and just say, go make me money. And that's a foolish thing. What we're doing, all of us, is we're not really right now building agents. We're building systems, and we're throwing AI agents into micro agents and us in the loop into these systems that are getting more and more and more and more powered by AI. But at the beginning of the day, we're thinking the system. We're saying, okay, I need to put all these pieces together, and there is no magic bullet right now for the clients that are saying to us, can I just have an agent that goes and doubles my business, right? It's like, they're not thinking out the system. Do you guys know Nick Morgan?
Nick Morgan, no.
Okay, well, I'm going to do 4 introductions for Nick Morgan. And when I say it, you might know it, because I'm sure Glenn Ledwell has spoken to you guys about the lead generation and follow-up system. Nick spoke at the Speakeasy last week, a couple of weeks ago. And he's also a Flight Club member, and he's also a member in the Miami Speakeasy. And so Nick has a system. And when I tell you guys, like, this isn't like Nick's a guy that sold several companies. I don't want to get into his business, but like he's kind of like gangster thinking. Donnie, you'd really love to know him. E-commerce, flip brands, all that type of stuff. Oh, you know,
I've seen
yeah.
him at thing. I just don't know what I don't know what he does or who he is.
So,
really.
so what he's doing right now, and it's like literally blowing up. Like he's going to exit in a couple of years for like serious money. He's got a system built, right? It's not just this agent. It's a system that finds people. It's built for sales teams. It finds the ICP, the ideal client profile. It reaches out to them, and they've cracked the email code because what they're doing is they're doing multi-point reach out. They're pulling in big data, so they know, first of all, everything from your CRM, what they bought, and they pull in their LinkedIn profile and all this other stuff. So every single email that goes out to them, it has that information before it spins up the email. And this agent's job is to contact people, do reach out via email, does the whole thing, and the end goal is to book them onto the calendar. And they are literally bringing in clients for people. It's just like an automated system. It takes a lot to set up, a lot of questioning your business, but like that's like a hero system right there. Like you got a high ticket $5K, $7,500 offer, and you plug this thing in, and it's just your salespeople just pick up the phone and people are there. And there's a lot more to it, but that's not something that you just say to.
That is a system that makes me money, though. That would be a business system that makes you money.
Yeah, but you don't just go tell an agent, right? You don't just tell an agent, go build that, right?
Right, you don't.
You have to build. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you have to map out an entire architecture, and you have to do a ton. And then also, just for anyone watching or listening, the tip you gave me, Mike, was huge. So I just want to share it with everyone, including everyone here. So I made a leap from like building skills and agents to then building systems, and I didn't really like update my skill set very much. And so a lot of the systems I was building were kind of unstable. I had learned how to go from like all AI to run books and Python scripts. So that was like an evolution in just creating better agents and skills. But I didn't like learn really to build systems. And so I had to learn a lot more recently because a lot of stuff I built broke because like, you know, you could build like a 35-piece system, right? Like with the skills that I had, but it didn't like figure out the input and output of each sub piece so that if you change anything, the whole thing doesn't fall apart. And Mike was over the house and he just mentioned in passing Electron. I had never heard of Electron as a programming language. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll try that. And it made everything about 100 times more stable. Awesome. And for those that don't know, I didn't know, so I'll just share it. Electron is like Slack, right? It's a DMG file, and there's even one level higher, but I was afraid to play with that, Mike. Tori?
Yeah.
But I feel a little bit more like ambitious with the thing that George shared of the different code bases.
Right? Like the worst thing we want to send development is unconscious incompetence, right? Like, but if you go into conscious competence and spend, now that we can, you can become an expert in Tori in like 2 hours. Can it do this? No, but it can do that. Oh, with this. And then like, okay, now I know it's everything with Electron that I wanted plus this. And then you could just have go tell.
There's two things with it, right? One is that after you told me that and it was so effective, I then was like talking to my AI, like, why don't I know this? Why didn't you tell me about this? What else don't I know? Like, there's tons of stuff I probably don't know that you're not telling me that, like, I'm going to come back here. And then the other thing is this, and this is like kind of interesting. I had this thought. So, and you and I might be on different pages of this, Mike. I wonder where John and Todd and Donnie like land. But back about like 15 years ago in our space, right? Lots of people had like continuity programs. I had, Todd and I did something called Founders Club, and we delivered like reports. But like you and Russell and a bunch of others like packaged it as a magazine. And I always thought that was like the biggest mistake because a magazine has a perceived value of a couple dollars. And so you were spending more to package your stuff in a thing that has a perceived value of less, where it's like we delivered it in something that had no perceived price point. And I kind of was feeling the same way when I was packaging up my like powerful agents as a DMG file, because all of a sudden now my DMG files are not as good as like a $10 app that you buy on the App Store that like people spend a shitload of time. And now I'm delivering, like, it felt different when I was like handling someone a React file and all these files, like they felt like they were really an AI. Now I give them a DMG and it's almost like, oh, this is it.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
so it's
go
better,
backwards on this?
better
'Cause,
for
like,
stability, but it seems
Totally.
cheaper.
Can you go
Yeah.
backwards
Yeah,
on this?
well,
Because I know you sent me
It's
this
ugly
the other
marketing
day.
only in the
Go ahead,
AI
Donnie.
space now.
Donnie, you got to turn your volume gain up a little bit. I think you're the lowest
Yeah,
sounding.
you're
of
low,
us.
Donnie.
On my mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talking.
I mean, we can hear you, but you're like at like 50%, and Rich is at 120.
turn up your volume gain.
Rich,
Yeah,
I
you're
thought
peaking.
you
You're-
actually, Mike, did
200
that on
today.
purpose with Donnie, kept him a little lower than everybody else.
So
It
where
came
would I
down.
find
Donnie's 50 is
volume
100 for
gain?
everyone.
Dude, the DMG file thing is just the same thing as an ugly VSL versus a fancy sales page. I mean, once you see a fancy sales page, you have an immediate perception of something, and it's like it's never the cost of like an ugly VSL or whatever, and it's like a $47 book.
Yeah.
I mean, we got wealthy selling $37, $47 ebooks, right?
Yeah.
Because people didn't have a concept of what an ebook cost.
So true.
And so we're like, plus you get these 19 bonuses that come along with it, and yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
Give people
for
a
those listening, I'll go just a little deeper on what Electron is. So basically, anything that's in Electron is most likely a web app. So what it does, Electron is built on top of Google Chromium, which is the open source up-to-date fork of Chrome. So basically, Notion, Trello, Slack, Microsoft Teams, VS Code, all of these tools that you're logging into all the time, and then they pop up and say, use our desktop app. It's Electron is basically just wrapping in a Chrome browser, gets rid of the address bar, and then gives that app access to the desktop. With in real time, you can see stuff that's going on the desktop. So that's all it is. It's so you'll notice when you're using Slack, like, and they force you to download the app, and or Discord, right? That's Electron. They're just basically, it's a browser without the address bar, and the beautiful thing is it's cross-platform. It works on every platform, and then you hook that up with any authentication and things like that. But like as Rich said, like he was telling them, hey, download this, so they were getting all these folders and everything like that. And now it's like the app just shows up, and I guess they're getting. At the end of the day, the promised land is still the same thing, but they're not seeing inside the garage, right? They only see the front of the house.
Yeah.
So, Rich, would you? Is my audio better now, Mike?
Yeah, much better.
No, but
Okay.
Oh, is it? Okay.
On my side.
It's not.
Yeah,
it
sounds good to me.
Yeah, so it's
It's
good.
good,
Okay,
yeah.
great. So, Rich, you told me the other day
I'll be
to
right
like
back.
take our marketing OS and tell Claude to build an Electron app. Is that still what you would do? Is like take a system like Marketing OS and tell it to build an Electron app? And then what would be the purpose of that? And like the use, how does
It's
that
a lot
change
more
the use
stable.
case for other users?
It's just a lot more stable. Like that's been my experience so far. I mean,
And
that
so
like
it's just going to change the infrastructure of like the system.
yeah, like what you see is going to be the same. At least it is for me, but it's just a lot more stable.
And what
you
talk to
see
me,
in
Donnie,
the
what
sense
is
that
this?
like
What is the app? Is it an internal app for your team, or is it something you sell to your customers?
that's why I'm trying. That's what I was trying to get to. So like my Marketing OS is a folder in our repo, which is the entire like marketing system for what we do from A to Z, research all the way through to optimization and organic. It's every step of everything we do trained on the
Yeah, it will
entire
take
history.
all of those folders and package it into the files.
Yeah, and you also get
So
access to all the desktop files and everything like that. So I'll give you an example of what else is an Electron app. Obsidian is an Electron app, right? Wouldn't work very well as a desktop app because it doesn't, as a browser, because it doesn't have access to your files. Every time you'd go in there, even if you did, you'd have to load your local file directory. VS Code or Cursor that you use, that's Electron. So as soon as you go in, it has all your file directories. So, and the other thing is it's kind of like persistent. Like you close a browser tab, you can go a week later and go, oh shit, I forgot I even had that app. This is kind of like a separate thing that's separate from Chrome, that it's kind of like persistent on the desktop, reminding people that they have access. I know it's a silly thing, but it kind of like separates it from being just this Chrome tab, and it becomes an actual app that your team members are seeing that they have access to constantly.
See, Donnie, that's very cool because it almost sounds like, Mike, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but you got right. The people that have access to the repo can actually work on the skills, the processes, the system, but
locally.
Locally. But if we don't want people to be able to work on it, we just want people to be able to benefit from it. We don't want them to have to download the repo.
Right. So here's what I did. Right. And I did it complicated. I handed you guys my God mode thing about 6 weeks ago. And I was like really upset because like the only way I did that is kind of like Rich saying, why didn't you teach me this? I didn't have to do this. Right. I had to give away all my skills. Right. And Rich, I don't know how important that is to you, but let's just say your skills were some secret sauce and all you wanted people to get was the outcome.
Right.
And you didn't want them to know. Right. And for me, that was kind of important. Right. And so, and John, I'm sure it would be for you, right? Like if you were able to do something where you could give them a desktop app, you don't want to give them your system prompts. Right. So all I simply did is I kept that stuff on the cloud. In the database, in the SaaS app, or you would just create like a Postgres database. And then you just tell Claude Code, hey, I want you to create an MCP that somebody can install that goes to access this. So now my users even get, like I had a guy just say to me, hey, what happened? The previous one you gave me had all the files and folders. I'm like, I know, I don't want you to have that. He says, now all I see is the output files. I'm like, yeah, now that you have the MCP, it just talks to click campaigns in the cloud. But it's getting access to the same files. So just another thing that you could do there, it's kind of like a hybrid. You can protect your data.
So the MCP
in the cloud
would connect directly to GitHub where it has access to all the documentation. They see like a visual, they would be able to have a visualization layer that they're like working through the whole process, doing what I'm doing. But then that MCP is like calling back to the main documentation where that has the skills and the full documentation for the entire repo. Okay.
Exactly. And if it's something that, it's just internal, then you don't need authentication. For me, the MCP will say, hey, you're not logged in. And it gives them a link just one time. And then it goes there, like sign in with Google type of thing and redirects them. Like, when you're setting up anything and now you're authenticated. So I also,
I did that like for all the training and documentation for like engineering on how we're using the different repos for different use cases. Like I just created, it's a separate project in Versal that's connected back to the repo in a different folder. And then I created like an OAuth into that Versal app that I created. So they have to log in to get in to see the documentation. So it's like piped both ways and nobody from the outside can like hack in to see the,
I just love hearing you talk like that, Donnie, and just like the last 120 days that you're like, I created an OAuth in Versal. I'm like,
I did.
Just from 120 days ago when you were like, can we get together?
My computer.
And like, I feel like I'm missing something here. And now
can you help me plug in my Elgato lights? Because that's literally what I was asking you 120 days ago.
I was like, Donnie, your computer's not booting up because you got a floppy drive in your slot.
I remember Donnie sitting on my couch and asking, so what is the Chat GPT all about?
Yeah, that's true. That is a fact right there.
Here's the thing, guys. I'm curious, Todd. I think that I want to lean on you for this one, if it's cool. Like my concern for like the listeners of this podcast are there's going to be like factions. There's going to be the factions that are really deep into this stuff like we are, and then the other factions that are like, wait, I'm just using chat occasionally. What the hell are you talking about? I just want to make more money. Can you go back to that whole thing about sending emails, the leads? Like in other words, what can we do that's practical? Which is what I was trying to do with like, let's give something practical, because I would love to say let's every single thing we talk about, we dive into the complex, we dive into the what we're doing systems wise, but we also think about what can we do for folks that aren't quite there yet, that want to do something practical. And if I can just share one, it's not like an AI thing, it's a conceptual thing of breaking things into chunks. It's the reason why I went with emails. The reason why I love email marketing is because it's easy to understand. If you have a list of 1,000, you grow it to a list of 2,000, and all things being the same, you're going to basically double your income. Let's just go with it just mathematically. It's going to roughly give or take, all things being equal. You can radically increase your income if you increase your qualified lead list. So where I'm going with this is that most people aren't doing the basics, let alone connecting Obsidian folders and talking about OAuths and stuff like that. They're not doing that. The people that are, that's awesome. But are even they doing it? Like Rich was saying, are they doing the basics? Or are they just asking, they're wanting agents to do everything for them? They're wanting this magic thing to happen. So just go off and solve all the problems of my company. And I'm saying, like, why don't you just back up and just take one step at a time, do one thing and make one thing consistently better? And Todd, you and I, you come from a background of bodybuilding where we know, like, if you add just a half pound of weight to something over a course of time, over time, you're just going to grow muscle. Over time, you're going to get better. You see the guitars behind me. How I break down very complicated things that I would play is I would play everything super slow, very, very slow, to the point of being ridiculous, to the point of being like, it's very, very boring. And I would just break it down, and every day just go a little bit faster. And those are the things that built music, built physiques. They also build businesses. And so that's what I was going with, Rich. It's like, if you want to build a business, just think about the really great stuff, the system stuff that we're talking about, but also think about the basic stuff. Are you adding leads to your list? Are you talking to your list? Because I will promise you, the one thing that will be the most valuable thing in 2026, especially toward the end of it, is human to human connection. Because people are going to get sick and fucking tired of AI this and AI that. They're already tired of it. If you put human connection on top of this, let me tell you, you're going to go a long way. And email, while it isn't quote unquote human connection, at least opens up the opportunity to, like, hey, I'm going to be on a live call. Come and join me. Nothing for sale. I'm just going to talk to you guys. I mean, these are the kind of things that I'm working on, and I'm using AI agents to help me grow that list. So I want to just throw that out as something that just maybe inspire people to just take one step forward, see what you can do with one agent, one skill, one thing that will help you just get a little further in your business this week. So
I love it. I totally agree with you, John. I want to go back even further, right? Because this is like, look, there's stuff that you guys talk about that I'm still like, I don't even know what you're saying, man. Like, right. So I want to go back,
my son. You will.
Even further. I know, just because
I never know what Rich is
I
saying.
see the progress. And so I no doubt. But I want to go back, Rich, to something that you had said at the beginning, that right, like hey, I want an agent that's going to help me make more money. Totally ridiculous question, because the thinking isn't there, the strategy isn't there, the tactical, like the how is it going to make you money. And so I'd love to hear from you guys, right? Like, so how, if you took an entrepreneur that was just getting into AI, going deeper or wanting to go deeper than just, right, using Chat GPT as a fancy Google, wanting to go a little bit deeper, not crazy with Obsidian and the CLI, Claude Code, none of that. How do they, like, how would you advise that they begin to think about their business and think about what that first, like John said, that first agent should be?
This is,
I'd also like to add on this, so it can be two forks. So everybody can answer this differently, because this is a genuine question I have, and it's happening right now. So my daughter in town for 2 weeks right now. She's been learning code for years and years in school, so she's very adept on a computer. But she's still in. Thank you. She's still in ChatGPT and using just Nano Banana and Gemini, and like, she hasn't made the next step. And her question right now is like, over the next 16 months before I go to college, if I go to college, what should I be doing in AI? Where should I be learning? So I think this is like, and I don't think the answer from the entrepreneur and the kid is very different. So this is what I'm interested in.
So it was Easter, right? And Easter is very similar to Thanksgiving. You get the entire family around, right? And you get to find out where they are, and my dad is saying things like, oh, well, I was talking with ChatGPT the other day about my blood sugar. It's like, oh, wow. So, the 88-year-old man, it's hit there, and it's just, that's normal conversation around the table. But then my brother, who has a 15-year-old and a 21-year-old, said, Mike, what should my daughter be doing right now? And I said, look, we had the luxury, 20, 30 years ago, kind of like when you play Wheel of Fortune, they give you the 5 letters, RSTLNE. Like, there were certain things you put on your resume, and it was proficient in PowerPoint, Excel, and Microsoft Word. And then you added your real skill on top of that. Right. And I truly believe that there's a lot of kids going to, I don't want to go down the college as a scam rabbit hole, because it's not for everybody. But for now, like 90% of the people that went to college, especially anybody that was going to do knowledge work, they've got a wasted degree, and they need to pivot really, really quickly to adding an agentic layer to their business. And Todd, we're a little bit older. I'm 58, right? But for me to give that advice, Donnie, to your daughter, like, the skill is going to be learning these, how to give instructions to an agent, how to become the orchestrator to these agents. And that does go beyond.
Before that, Mike, I think it's how do you make this? Because like, we have Rich's onboarding. We know how Rich does it for entrepreneurs, but it's like, what is the jump? If she's using Perplexity.
The jump is, I think you're thinking about it wrong, but maybe this helps. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm like off base. I think it's more about her picking some kind of very ambitious goal, something that she really wants to do, that's going to require her to upskill her abilities. Like, you've been put in that situation, right? Like, just based in performance golf, you didn't have a choice. So you had to reach for something that was beyond your capabilities. And in that process, you got a lot better. She probably has lots of things that she would love to do if there's something that she's willing to commit to that is a reach, right? Like her own software that does something amazing or something, right? But it's really not about that. It's about working towards it and having to learn all the things, because that's how I've learned. I think, I think Mike might be more self-motivated because like he came from programming and stuff like that. But for me, I had to be forced into it to then I needed to get to here, and that's what got the skill there.
Let me throw a couple of things in there, right? So like my buddy Joe, many of you know him. I'm not going to say his last name. Obviously it involves the kids, right? But this kid went to school for graphic design, extremely in a big case of depression right now, saying, Dad, all these skills that I've learned mean absolutely nothing anymore. And so Joe was fortunate enough to say, no, that's not true. You're still going to do graphic design. You have to know how to adapt the new tools, right? And so I think that like if you were going into legal, you just have to know, how does this apply? Like, how do we all become the $6 million man? How do we go faster, stronger? Our skills in the past used to be data analytics, right? So you're still going to be the data analytics person on the team. But if you show up to somebody that has the agentic skills, that knows how to put this stuff into an AI and knows different tools to make the work and then can turn it into a presentation, right? I know it sounds silly, but these are going to be the skills compared to the person that spent 4 years learning data analytics, right? You still have the same skill, but you have to say whatever it is. Look at Donna Fox, right? Donna has her own YouTube channel. And I spoke with her the other day. I said, whoa, what happened? You went from 116 views, 112 views, and now you're getting 6,000, 4,000. And she says, well, I would like to tell you, I do think it's the algorithm. But the other thing, Mike, is I just started having a conversation with ChatGPT, and now she's using Claude because she was on a couple of calls and stuff like that. And she goes, I didn't know what could be done. So I started saying to Claude, hey, can you go analyze my competitor's YouTube channel? And then she was like, oh my God, look what it's telling me. It's like, here's what you're doing, Donna. Here's what your competitors are doing. I'm analyzing your topics are not here, and they're doing topics, and their thumbnails are saying this, the way that your title tags and everything. So these are skills that people need to say, hey, this is my passion. And Donna has an art. You watch her draw on time lapse, right? But she applied AI, the intelligence, to say, how do I do what I want to do? How do I do it better? And I think that we just need to know that. And Rich says this to his people all the time. We used to joke to people and say, when they would ask us how to do something, we'd say, okay, open your browser, go to Google, and the question that you just asked me, typed it in, right? Now it's now that on steroids, right? You can ask these things, the question, and it will, you have a mentor like that can help you do the things that you want to do better.
The one thing, if I can, guys, especially with graphic design, as you know, I owned a graphic design firm for 14 years, what I did before I got into marketing. So I know a little bit about that topic. I can definitely talk to your friend about being, I just had this conversation. Okay, I want you to think about this for a second. You've got a guy who's a graphic designer, and he works for a company that's getting an annual report done. And then you've got another guy who's just the CEO of another company, and they're getting an annual report done. He has no design knowledge. He just knows what he likes. And so they both hire a designer, a human designer, and the designer A presents his design, designer B presents his design, the other guy looking at this does not know design at all. He just knows what he likes. He doesn't catch all the little nuances that a designer would know. It's like, oh, this is going to convey power. This is a little too free, a little too freeform for us. We need to scale this back a little bit because he has a design eye. He's got design skills, and so he's working with this art director is working with the designer, going, let's make it a little bit more like this. Where the other guy is going, oh, that looks cool, right? That's all they know. Well, that's no different than AI. There's no different than right now, like somebody going to AI and going, design me a logo. And if they don't know anything about design, they won't know if it's a good logo or not. AI doesn't know if it's a good logo, and I was just doing what it's told, right? Same thing with copy. I mean, Donnie, how many times did we see this? It's like, write me an ad or write me a VSL or write me a thing. And it's most of the time it's shit, because unless you're a copywriter and you can look at it and go, look, I don't like this. Look, I did this the other day inside Benson and inside Claude, the two tools I use for email. I think it was inside Claude because I was doing this long thing that they had a bunch of background on it. I said, hey, listen, can you write me 5 emails real quick like this? And I wanted to see just given all the information it had on it, what it would do. Come up with the ideas first. I mean, I knew how to prompt it, of course, and came up with the ideas. And I could look at the emails and go, oh, no. I wouldn't be able to do that if I'm not a copywriter. I would not be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to say, okay, you missed this here. You don't want to lead with this. You want to go, you buried the lead here. This needs to, you forgot this. So I'm in there directing it, right? All the knowledge, all the years that I have spent studying copywriting completely paid off. And the emails actually became a hybrid 50-50 almost of what I wrote versus what Claude wrote. And then I do the same thing with agents. Benson's better at it because it knows me a little bit better. But the point is that you still need to have the skills. Like you still need the graphic design guy kid that he's talking about. He's got to have the skills. If he learns AI, he's lethal. He's completely
subject specific knowledge. It makes you
some
way
of those
more
things
lethal.
are going away. Like I, we keep saying like, and it's going to come where these things are going to be better at every human, at everything in copy. We don't want to believe it just yet. And I don't know that I do, but it's getting closer and closer every day. I want to tell you like a story of a YouTube video that I saw a couple of weeks ago. And those YouTube videos where they get to the chair and they go, and like you can tell, like, oh my God, they're really serious here. This is not. And so basically the guy was saying, I don't know where my channel is going anymore, because my channel teaches you how to go to a house and what settings you put on your camera for real estate and how to dress a house and all these different things. And he says, now I got to show you something. I've come across an app. I happen to know the guy. He told me to go in with my camera and take shots and then take them with an iPhone. And I simply upload the photos. And he goes, I'm going to ask you, which one of these do you think are better? The ones that I took or the ones that have been modified by AI? And it cleans up the little stuff in the house, adds something. It actually even makes it doesn't change the house, but it presents it better with a flower and a lighting and all this different stuff. And his audience chose 80-20 over the AI, over his skill. And he goes, now for me to go into a house, all I need is an iPhone. And he says, here's the thing. I have to carry my equipment with one strapped around my back and everything like this, because the agent, the homeowner is going to be like, hey, I hired you. I'm paying you all this money and you're using an iPhone. He goes, so I have to use my real camera to show them. He says, but like this skill that I've been teaching you, it's literally gone. It's been wiped out overnight. He says, I'm not sure where we're going to pivot this YouTube channel. So those things are also interesting how but again, for the person taking the photos, they just became the $6 million man, right? They can now outprice the competition, do more houses in a day, and have happier clients, right? Their job just got easier. Their skill gap, the skill gap got a little bit less.
Yeah, because somebody's still got to do it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that people miss. It's like I can give you the best copywriting app, or you can give me the best whatever app, the best whatever agent you can think of. Somebody still has to press the buttons and talk to it, right? And I think that right now, most companies want a human being that actually knows what they're doing to be the one pressing the buttons and talking to it.
Yeah, and that's what Benson is, right? You're before Benson. You had to write the copy, right? You had to take the photos, right? And Benson is the thing that takes your information and spits out the quality photo for the real estate agent, in the metaphor, like the quality AI. But you still need somebody that knows that, hey, we need a good VSL. And then, the next thing is we have to produce that VSL. And is there AI that produces, the video, the ugly VSL? But still, I guarantee you, we could give instructions to, are you guys familiar with Remotion?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's getting so much better every day.
Yeah. So
Nate's using it more and more.
Yeah,
Nate's using it
like
more and more.
My team is really on the edge. I mean, they sent me a message yesterday. They're going to present this week, but like they believe that they are days away from fully agentic video editing, like with real footage.
Let me throw a couple of things in for you, Donnie.
That would be cool, man.
Yeah. Let me throw a couple of things in for you. I showed this to Rich, and by the way, Rich, if he hasn't shared with you his his PowerPoint skill that like uses Nano Banana to like create images out of concepts. It creates the whole presentation. Yeah, get with Rich on that, and if he wants to talk about that, he can. But basically, I'm going to share my screen real quick here. Let me just load it up. You guys are familiar with Gamma, right? Did I talk about this last week? Because I know I spoke to a few people about it. I didn't show this last week, right?
Yeah.
No.
All right. So they added something new. So let's click share screen, entire screen. It would be this one here, and you guys should be seeing my screen now, right?
Yes.
So what Gamma did, I'm going to click new Gamma. We don't want that one. We want create new, paste in text. And I'm just going to, hopefully it'll allow me to do this with that little text because I just want to go to the side editor over here. And down here, they added this new thing under format. Okay. And when you click on format, down here, they have classic, and that's the old classic. That's like title tag, bullets on the left, bullet, 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 animation. On the right is the image. The new studio, I think they're pulling right out of Notebook LM. And they're basically saying, okay, what is this slide trying to convey? And using this theme here, like whatever theme you want to use. And I happen to like this theme right here. It's basically the Claude theme. Like, and this is like Codex, like if you wanted to look like OpenAI, and this is Claude. And I'm going to show you like an output, right? So what you do, I was showing this to Rich the other day. You simply just take like an Alex Hormozi video, and I just took the Alex Hormozi video and I just pasted it in, and you get something that looks, oh, actually, this is not the one because we did it on Rich's computer, but still, it's the same thing. What you're seeing is these aren't actual slides. These are Nano Banana images, but it takes every idea that you have and it converts it into an expression. So it's taking and you're starting to see YouTubers are doing this. And because in real time, you just, as you're editing your video, you export that section that you just edited and of the text, you paste it into Notebook LM or Nano Banana, and you're getting these visualizations. And Donnie, this will work for golf. So if you're trying to, in your VSL, say, when your arc goes back at 38 degrees, you're going to come, whatever, right? It should be at a 45-degree angle off your hip. I'm making stuff, I don't play golf with what I just said, right? But like you will get a visual that will explain that. And so you start adding that asset to Remotion, and it'll add that into the video as well. Just throw it. So into the
Mike,
prompt.
hang on. So just for everybody listening, and maybe somebody on this call, on this podcast episode, so you're saying, so you shoot a video, right? And let's say you shoot a video, you got all A-roll, you on camera, you edit a piece of that, and you want a graphical, you want something as an overlay or something to show on the video. You would take that, boom, Gamma, feed it into Remotion, and now you've got that, you've got something designed for the video.
Exactly. There's a couple of 100%. You nailed it. So I'm going to tell you what we're adding that to the workflow.
All right, I want to make sure that you all got that, just to be clear, right? I fully understand.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for slowing him down.
No,
I got it.
So
it's
what
very
we do
important that
exactly,
everyone
Todd,
else gets it.
Yes.
Yeah, what we're doing. So if you take this podcast now, that what we're doing is we're taking the transcript. Rather than putting it up to YouTube and waiting for it to transcribe, we just hit the transcript button in CapCut, and it just transcribes in like 4 minutes. And then we take the final edited product and we just dump it in, and we max out the slides. Right, it starts at 10, and we'll go up to like 40 slides or whatever. So like picture some of the stuff that Rich said here today. We're going to start B-rolling that as Rich is talking, and it's going to convey some of these concepts instead of just the 5 of us. And these are things that couldn't be done before. There's other things that could be done as well, Donnie and Todd, and for all of us and everybody listening, is Notebook LM just added a new feature. They used to have video overviews, right? But those video overviews were basically creating static Nano Banana images. Cool. It was kind of like created a voiceover for what we're doing. And then you could just get rid of the voiceover, right? Because you're using your professional VSL. What they've added now is they've added VO3 as an option, and they call it cinematic. If you want me to pull it up, I'll show it on my screen. But like basically all the different things in the Notebook LM Studio, there's a new thing that they've just added called cinematic video. And then you have 3 options. You have explainer, education, or cinematic, and you choose cinematic. And basically what it does is it takes that nano banana image and then animates it. And sometimes it's an image, sometimes it's a human. So now in your VSLs, imagine that you wanted the graph to say, it's moving through, like, so it's going to like suddenly move through, turn the thing 3D and different things like that. So again, it's another workflow that you can do that steps up those parts of the VSL that need a concept drawn out. So between Remotion, Notebook LM, and Gamma, I throw my stuff into all 3 and then say which one of these fits better for this particular 30 seconds of the slide.
Wow.
Do they have do they have an API you can connect to Claude Code, or an MCP that you can connect to Claude Code?
Notebook LM has a CLI thing, and I just saw a video yesterday. I'll send it to you. Whoever picks up next, I'll go in. It basically said something like Claude Code plus Notebook LM equals God mode, and the guy was basically basic. So I'll tell you what he was doing. Right, he was basically using Claude Code like the way you guys use Obsidian for Notebook LM. He'll say, hey, do me a favor, research a topic on all of this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And instead of it loading it into Obsidian, it's loading it into Notebook LM. And he has Notebook LM on a separate tab, part of the screen here, and Claude Code over here. And as he's typing, you see this screen just start loading up with content. And then when he's ready, he goes over and he clicks create cinematic video. So you're researching in Claude Code, and it the same way it builds your content in Obsidian, it's building it in real time in Notebook LM.
Crazy. All right, let's go back though. Let's take it back
to your original question,
to the original, to right, like, because I'd love to hear from you, John, and you, Rich, all you guys. So again, business owner, right? They want to make more money. Their natural tendency would be, right, create, I'd love to have an agent that makes me more money. They're thinking about it the wrong way, right? So how should they be thinking about this first agent, this first agentic flow? Like, where do they begin? And I'd love to hear from you. Like, John, why don't you kick it off? Like, where would you tell somebody to start?
So I would start with Claude. Claude is just go to the desktop app. Just go to Claude.ai.
And that's an Electron app, also, by the way.
yeah. Just don't have to worry about any of that Electron stuff. Just go to a website. Just go to a website, and I prefer to go to the Pro version and then go to Extended. And then I would do exactly what Donna did, which I think was so few people do this. It's like they don't say, look, can you do me? Here's everything about me. Put everything that you can about your business. Here's our business. Here's what we're doing. Here's the website we're using if you've got one. Here's our marketing materials if we got one. Just load everything in there and say, look, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Can you analyze my competitors and tell me what they're doing better than me and how I can shift my marketing or my messaging this week, what I can say, what I can send out this week? Give me a series of emails, give me an ad I can try, give me a post I can make, anything this week to make that shift, and let's see how it lands. And that's just an immediate win. That's an immediate win. Like, okay, here's what everyone else is doing. And you might get like 90% information that you don't care about, but that 10% that matters, man, that is a massive thing. Rich, the skill that you gave us probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, that was the mimetic skill.
Oh yeah,
this is a very in-depth stuff, and you're dealing with mimetics, and you're dealing with all the stuff like dealing with congruency and all this overlay stuff. It's kind of complicated, and he uses a lot of really interesting copywriting stuff, a lot of interesting marketing stuff.
Yeah, that's not a beginner skill. Yeah, that's not a beginner skill. That's not a beginner skill. Yeah.
No, that's not a beginner skill. But I took that and I basically said, okay, I'm going to strip everything down and give it to my mastermind class. And here's the skill that I wrote for them. Wrote the skill. Claude wrote the skill. I just put in a couple of little things and said, now go out and analyze and give me some competition. And man, what I learned from that was just fantastic. It allowed me to pivot my marketing immediately. And I think that's what I would do, Todd, right off the bat. If I wanted to say, how do I make more money? It's like, you got to figure out what your competition is doing better than you, and then figure out how you can word something and get in underneath it. Now, understand that at the same time, Your competition is going to eventually figure out how to do the same thing. And when you strip all this down, all these tools that everyone will have, guess what? We're still going to be left with the players. You're still going to, whoever the better player is, the same thing in business right now. Whoever it's going to come down to, whoever works the smartest, whoever works the hardest sometimes, but whoever thinks deeper, gets underneath the radar, so to say, they're going to be the ones that win. And this is a great way to get underneath the radar right now, because very few people are doing this.
I dig it. Yeah. Great answer. Donnie, I want to go to you next, and then we'll go to Rich, and then Mike. And then I have another question that I want to ask you guys that I've posed to Rich before, that we actually talked about, that I'd love to hear the answer from you guys. But Donnie, so what would you say? Like, I know, because you gave me, let me give a little context for 1 second. So Donnie was the one that really pushed me, right? Like, I got with, Rich was the guy. Like, I saw what Rich was doing and I was blown away, but I was also so intimidated at the time. Like, and Donnie, I forget what we were working on, but Donnie was like, we needed to pull recordings from sales calls, like 15,000 recordings, get the transcript, get the API.
That's always fun.
And I was just like, all right. And I don't, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to roll, man, and see what happens. And like, I ended up coming back, and remember, Donnie, I showed you, like, I was actually in the terminal, like, which I didn't know. I thought that's what I was
not
doing.
in Claude desktop, like, was not in cursor. He was just straight command space bar terminal.
Yeah. No, but like, I came back and they were like, Donnie and Ben, right, were like, whoa. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what I could have been deleting my hard drive. I have no clue, but I just
could have.
Yes. I had faith.
-RM.
Yeah, Donnie was regularly like, he's like, look, he's like, what? He's like, there is no such thing as you don't know. He's like, go in and ask it. Go in and do it. You got to do it. And so like that. So Donnie, what would you say to, right? So you heard the guidance that John would give. What would you say to somebody new on, entrepreneur, new to AI? Where do they begin?
Yeah, do the step that I skipped for 6 months, and Rich skipped for a while and then went back and did. But John in his breakdown right now just jumped right over it, like, super fast. The most valuable thing to me is get over the fact that you have privacy quickly. Yep. If you want to keep your passwords private, great, in your bank accounts, I agree. But give it every single thing you possibly can about you, your business, your life, your content. Give it all of it. And then if you don't know where you want to go next, the first thing to do is, after you give it, and when I say give it, that means that organize it in a place that your Claude Code or your Open Codex or your whatever model you're using can get access to, and point it at that thing and say, tell me everything you know about me and my business and who I am and what I do. And the insights that come out of that, just that first run, are going to be like a mirror for yourself. And it's also then going to become a window into things about your business and you probably yourself that you aren't aware of. And that will then expand the vision into what you could potentially do to grow your business. So like that visibility is essential. And that's the first step for me.
Great piece of advice, man. And so Rich, same question for you and then Mike. So where would you tell them to begin?
Well, these people already have a business, correct?
Yeah, let's just say that they're, they have a business, and they're the ones that their tendency would be to like, man, just help me to create an agent that makes me more money, because they don't know what to ask. Right. They don't know what other way to frame. Where would you tell them to begin?
I'm trying, and I'm not saying I'm doing this successfully, but what I'm trying to get at are generic questions that open up those like opportunities. Like when someone hears a question, like if you disappeared for 30 days and your business lost money, what stopped happening because you weren't there? Right? Or like, what's the most money you ever made in a month? And what was different about that month? Or what was the most money you made in 1 month and the second most in the second month? And what do those have in common that you're not doing now? Right? Or like, what's the thing you keep saying that you're going to get to next week because you know that if you were doing it every week, you'd be making more money, but you're not doing it. Yeah. Right? Like, like those types of questions. Or like, if we doubled the performance of anything in your marketing funnel except traffic, which would have the greatest impact? Right? Like, like those kind of questions. And I'm not saying that my questions are right, but I'm like, because I'm teaching a group, I'm trying to get at series of questions that I could throw at them so that their answer to their like, I need an agent that grows my business. They now have the questions that open up the answers for them in their head, as opposed to me saying, well, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. Cause that gets tiring, and people always have like a reason why they can't do that or that specific one, right? They don't think laterally at all. So that's what I'm aiming for more. And it's hard, right? Like I don't have a good answer for me. Like specifically, like I get, like when I was writing reports, it was easy, right? It's like, yeah, if I spent an hour every day writing another manifesto, my business would have more money, because at the end of the year, I'd have 3 more manifestos than I currently have, right? And that would be 3 marketing campaigns or something like that. But I'm actually a little bit like upset with myself that it's not that clear. Like, that's why I'm trying to come up with these questions for clients, but I'm hoping that they also help me.
Well,
if that makes sense.
I will say this.
Totally makes sense.
It kind of is clear for you, Rich. It kind of is clear for you, right? Because I think what you're doing is it shouldn't be left out, you're pre-loading everything about your personality, your strengths, your weaknesses, your goals in your business, where you were 5 years ago, 3 years ago. And like so I'm going to give you basically how I see the difference between me and Rich. And I want to add so much more of Rich into mine. I
added something, Mike, that I got to tell you about after you finish, that you're going to like.
Okay, cool.
You're going to be stoked for.
Cool. I see Rich as kind of like the Black Ops guys that are not on television, right? They're like, oh, on television, they show you that like they plan in Ocean's 11 for 2 days, and then they go in and they raid the house in Nicaragua. He goes, what we do in Black Ops and Green Berets is we study for like 3 months. And then when we go in, we're in and out in like 14 minutes. And that's what I like about like what Rich is doing, especially compared to me. Like Rich is taking the time to create all of this information. And he'll spend months building all this stuff that when he's ready to go create a presentation, he's got all of this backlog there. And then now he's creating presentations that are crushing, like, and he doesn't stress it the way. And I think what I do, and I want to get much more like Rich, is for the Black Ops raid, I'm creating the bullets, the bulletproof jackets, the helmets, the infrared, and the weapons, right? Like I'm focusing on creating the tools that build the landing pages, write the emails, and different things like that. But I'm not really getting behind all of this stuff. Like, who's the target audience? Like, what's keeping them up at night? And how is Alex Hormozy delivering that message? How is Russell Brunson delivering that message? How am I, as Rich Schefren, this Rich was showing me, how am I delivering the message? And having Claude say, here's what you're missing, Rich, that they're tapping into, and blah, blah, blah. And then Rich says, okay, with all this information, now that I have that, now let me go get the Mike Filsaime thing and just output, right? I was so focused on just like, hey, let's ask you a couple of questions about your business and give you output. And so that's something that I think, Rich, that you do really, really well. And that's why.
Yeah, and then the next step above that, right, Mike, is a memory system that remembers that you ran that report once. So when you're working on something else, it knows that you already did that. Now that's what I've been working a lot on and building. But the thing I wanted to tell you about, like I was explaining to Mike my operating system, and I was explaining to him that, a lot of it is self-motivated, like most of my shit. And it's designed to kind of help me not get screwed by the flaws that I have. Like, if there's something that requires 3 steps, it's like, right now I can remember that I need to take my vitamins. If I don't take my vitamins right now, because it's like, oh, I got to go do this and then I got to go that, odds are I might forget it the whole day, right? Like, that's just like, and there's tasks that I like need to do 2 steps and I don't do them because like, it seems like a pain in the ass to do those 2 steps. And like, and I'm just bad at this. And this is my ADD. Like, this is like the problem. So I wanted to design a panel that would make it frictionless to get my work done. And that's like what my OS is all about. Like everything that's important should come up and I should be able to take action on it right there. Like whether it's start a project, assign it to someone, take action, do something, but move it forward. And so that's what I have, right? And that works and that's good. I just recently though, I got into jump roping primarily because like of the gamified aspect and the competitive aspect of the game. Right. And I feel like that brought out a lot more jumping rope in me. So I want to gamify my business, right? My panel. And I already gamified it, but I didn't gamify it well. and I had this new idea of how to gamify it that I'm really excited about. That as soon as I finish this course, like I already have it spec'd out, I start my day talking to the AI about what's going to move the business forward the most today, like until we both get agreement. And then we compete against each other. We decide how many points each thing should be. It's going to take certain tasks. I'm going to take certain tasks. And then we compete at like each day for who can generate the most points. Right. And because competition generally brings out the best in me, I want to compete against my AI, and I can't hide. It knows everything that I'm doing. Right. Like, and I can check it. I just have to make sure it doesn't give itself lots of points. Like for like writing a 10-page thing, which you can do in 2 minutes, because it takes me a lot longer, obviously. But that's kind of, I want to make it so that getting work done is as fun as possible, that I'm as engaged as possible. And so, yeah, that's kind of like, that's the next evolution of this.
Did you hatch a buddy yet?
What's that?
Yeah.
Did you hatch a buddy yet?
Those like little buddies that follow you on the
they're like they're like Pokemons. They're like, you can hatch your little buddy in Claude Code.
Harry was
you got to do it.
That. But what I did do, and I'll tell you whether it's worthwhile or not, is I did what Kaparthi did with his Obsidian Vault.
Yeah.
I only did 2 areas though. I did my personal, like everything about me, and then I did everything external, like all my clippings, all my YouTube videos, everything external that I'm tracking. And for you guys that don't
wikis.
know,
I created a personal wiki and a tag wiki.
Can you break down the Karpathy thing for everybody listening?
Yeah, so there's 2
For the love of God, you guys, like rein it in, man.
Look,
like,
Todd and John, you guys keep calling
That's
us out
why
on
we're gonna
this.
break it
Mike
down.
Filsaime, when he organized this podcast, he said, "Don't worry about the audience. We're gonna talk as friends. So this is as valuable for you guys because we don't get to hang out. So we're gonna go all off, and we're not going to worry about the level.
If this is the conversation among friends, I ain't showing up. All right? No, I'm kidding.
No. I know what you're saying. I know what you're both saying.
Very straightforward, Todd.
Yeah.
Give the context.
Yeah, this is very straightforward. And
yes,
Mike will probably fill in some details that I'll leave out. Anyway, Kaparthi, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, he's one of the original founding members of OpenAI. He was the head of AI at Tesla. And so he's kind of a big deal. And
he's brilliant. He's just brilliant.
Yeah. And he's a fan of using Obsidian with Claude Code like we are. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. It's like a big validating step for us. And but then he creates a separate vault. And that's what I did. I just cloned, I created these separate vaults that I'm not really syncing. I'm just
vaults are folders, everybody. Vaults are
just
folders.
Thank you, Mike.
And so in these folders are just all the documents from the other folders. They're copies, right? Everything that relates to me personally or everything that relates to research I've done external. So there are 2 vaults, personal and external. And what this version does is it creates a wiki, right? So it's cross-linking everything and it's creating pages that are category pages. So like in my wiki, every time Todd Brown is mentioned, right, that becomes like underlined, underscored, and then there becomes a Todd Brown category. And then because of that, supposedly, like this is what I was reading, right? Supposedly that makes it much, much easier for Claude to find exactly what it needs, like much quicker, with a lot less tokens, with a lot less friction, with a lot less everything. I don't know if that's the same because I'm running it in the background right now, like
let me add on top of that.
Wiki.
But isn't that the same thing that's what's behind the structure of like the knowledge graph that you see?
Yes, it's they have the knowledge graph and I know, Todd, this is technical, but like the big thing that made ChatGPT work back in the day where it had like 4,000 tokens, which meant it forgot everything after 3,000 words. Then it went to 32,000 tokens, then 64, then 100,200. Now most of them are doing 1 million tokens. But back when we first started, like it would forget something very quickly. I was like talking to Lenny in Memento. You'd be talking to it and it's like, did I tell you I'm staying at the hotel? Yeah, every morning I see you, right? And so that's how ChatGPT was. So they created this thing called RAG, technical term, retrieval augmented generation. Just basically meant that that little companies came out called like Chat with a PDF. Oh my God, now I can talk to this PDF that has 700 pages, right? Yeah. So what was happening is what Rich and Donnie were doing with their life logging, they have ScreenPipe, taking a screenshot of their screen every single day, turning that into tokens. And they got their thing hanging from their chest. It's listening to every conversation, every course that they owned, every YouTube video, everything was creating this big, big thing. And Rich, I'm not going to say what he's spending. We saw it the other day, what he's spending like in Claude Code tokens every single month. He could have a house on the water in Fort Lauderdale, no joke. And so Rich was saying, yeah, the thing that I'm starting to notice now 3 months in, it's starting to like slow down and everything like that. And I didn't have an answer for him. And then all of a sudden, it's like the universe was talking to us, because I think everybody's starting to do similar things, having these problems. Andre Karpathy says, hey, I was running into this problem as my knowledge base was growing, because it had to go read like the entire knowledge base. So he basically created this thing that takes the knowledge base and finds keywords, direct response. Oh, I'm going to link that to this page. And so now Rich's entire Obsidian folder vault, every file has like little links about everything. But the bottom line is, what that means is when Rich says, I want to do this, it only has to go looking for those files, and it can do everything in a couple of thousand tokens instead of having to hit 1 million tokens and then start losing memory. So it's just faster and more efficient.
It's like SEO for AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, you know, like and I think we all know this, but even for people watching, like, the models are so similar. What really differentiates your output is the architecture and the harness around the model, more so than anything else, right? That makes a much bigger difference these days than the model itself. And so what we're really talking about when we talk about Obsidian, or we're talking about, like, you know, turning Obsidian into a wiki or anything like that, is we're talking about the architecture surrounding our AI that makes all the difference.
Yeah, Claude Code. Yeah, and so I'll just wrap up my answer, Todd, so we could get to yours. I'll just give a quick answer. What would people do? I would recommend going off of the browsers and downloading the Claude Code desktop before you go deep into the CLI. You know, the terminal, as you said, Todd. Basically, what is a terminal? It's a very unuser-friendly version of ChatGPT, right? That's what it is, right? But at the end of the day, it has so much more power. But so if you want to meet in the middle and get like 99% of that power, but have a beautiful user interface that you used to with ChatGPT, I would tell people just download the Claude Code desktop. The Claude desktop. They have 3 tabs. They have chat, cowork, and code. Just go to the cowork tab, because what they did for business people, they said, hey, we don't need some of these terms for coding. Let's talk to them in the way that they know. And then it needs you to start with a folder. I would say start with a course that you've created, or any content or anything that you have that's already loaded in there, and just start with a question and say something like this. Hey, I created this course 4 years ago. How can I repurpose this information for social media? That's where I would start. And then that conversation is going to start like going and like say, oh, you could create infographics and mind maps and process maps and a free report, and I can codify. It'll find a way and bring you down a way that's going to make you start realizing, because I think the thing is, just to completely wrap this up, if I give you a software, any software I give you, whether it's Benson or ClickCampaigns or ClickFunnels or Go High Level, those things have structure. You go here, there's a menu, and it walks you through a wizard, and it helps you. The problem that we have with Claude Code and Claude Cowork is there's no playbook. So what that means is you basically have, you know, a data center of geniuses sitting around you in a room. So what would you do if you had Gary Halbert sitting next to you? Like, you have to look at it like, I have all of the smartest people in the world. What questions am I going to ask them? Because they're going to help me. And so you just, without a playbook and without a wizard, just ask the questions. And that's what Rich keeps saying, is like, it's not about necessarily the intent. It's about asking the questions. And then that exploration is going to tell people where they're going to go.
Very cool.
Hey, Mike, if it's cool with you, Todd, unless you have anything you want to add to that, I'd like to talk about something, make a little bit of a pivot, something that we've worked into Benson. It's a free gift I'd love to give to people if they want it, because I think it's the most valuable thing that you can do with AI right now, again, from a human perspective. So I've been into this, as you guys know, for a long time, and I've been trying to figure out, like, how do we make this, we coined the term humanized AI. How do we make this feel more human, not just in the output, but in the experience? So I started going back into my old, and this is exactly what I did. That's why I brought this up, Mike, is I went into some old courses and said, hey, pull some nuggets out here that I said, this was like 15 years ago. And one of the nuggets it pulled out was a concept called core value marketing. Okay. So I would teach this, and I taught this in a mastermind 15 years ago. I said, look, just write down your core values And then let's talk about how to use those core values that you have and integrate that into, say, your sales letter or into your ad, so that you can attract your ideal customers rather than people that are just tire kickers. Because just your ideal buyers, just the people that are ready to buy, that already resonate with you as a person. Forget about your product just for a second. You as a person, or if it's a company like Performance Golf, the values of Performance Golf, the people that already resonate with those values are so numerous. There's no reason why you should be trying to sell to everybody. And so this was the thing I said in the mastermind that the AI circled. Said, you said something that was really cool. Said, people that sell to everybody you're just making a fatal mistake. Stop trying to sell to everybody. In fact, you should purposely go out of your way to not sell to everybody, eliminating people that you don't want to sell to, even in your literature, so that the people that you really want to attract are actually even more attracted to you. So it becomes more of a viral campaign. So I started thinking, well, how do we do that with AI? And so what we did is we spent about 4 months building out a core value mapper, if you will, that will help you walk through multiple psychological. We used like Myers-Briggs, we used Spiral Dynamics, we used Gerard stuff. We used a bunch of different stuff to figure this out, and we basically came down with 10 questions and a bunch of stuff that you put in about you and your offer, and it maps your core values and says, here's the values that you should be using in your marketing and how you say it. So the words you should say and the phrases you should say and the words and the phrases you should not say. And it weaves in NLP, it weaves in all sorts of really cool stuff. I'd love to show this to you if you got just a second, because I think this is what we've been doing with all of our marketing. All conversion rates are better when you do this. And I taught this for years. I thought, well, why don't we just build it into Benson? So I'd love to show this to you if I can here. So
absolutely.
Share my screen
and Todd,
here.
didn't forget you. After this segment, we'll go back. I know you had one more question for all of us.
Sorry. Yeah, Todd. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack something here. But give me one second.
No, John.
Good,
actually,
all
you
good.
said right before the podcast started that you wanted to get this in, and
yeah.
Wait an hour and 15 minutes.
I'm actually wanting to share a Firefox screen, so I might have to go to something. Let me see here. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. 1 second, guys.
Let me see
it's a billion screens open here. So let me see. I think this is it here.
So Mike, just in case I got, snack in case Mike.
We can build AI, but we can't share our screens here very well. So it's like,
Todd, how good is that cereal?
Yeah, it is pretty good.
If you were a kid, like that was like Captain Crunch for grown-ups.
I totally didn't understand what that text was all about, but I was like, I like that cereal. I didn't get it, but I figured it was some older guy reference.
No, it was from last week when you jumped off. We went through the Mount Rushmore of the
cereals. Best four cereals.
Had a serious debate.
Argument. Yeah,
got it.
Can you guys see this screen, or am I just looking at myself?
Yeah, no, we see it definitely. Benson, with your buyer
make it bigger,
profile.
it would be better.
Yeah. So I'm not going to go through all the questions. Obviously, you can go to freebuyerprofile.com and take this for free. So free buyer profile. And what this does is give you what we call a buyer alignment profile. All this is aligning your values as a company with the values of what you and how you should be marketing it, so that you can attract like-minded people to buy your offer, because that's who you want. Because that you get fewer refunds, way fewer tire kickers, more word of mouth, people that you actually want to do business with. We just figured, like, look, life is too short. Let's do business with people who we want to do business with. And this weaves this in seamlessly. So it basically determined my primary core values and then gave me a report. It said the report is, and it breaks it down into everything from the surface level language. Like, in other words, this is how most people say it, but this is not what we want to do. What we want to do is use structural language patterns. So, and it breaks everything down into these patterns, like show what the room actually feels like, let the relationship show up before the pitch. And it talks about exactly how to do this. So this is written in real world context. Name the cost of saying shallow, words and phrases that carry this value. Instead of saying this, you say this. And these are little changes that you can make. You can copy and paste all of this report into Claude or into chat, or obviously Benson does it automatically. And every word of copy will come out filtered through this. Here's your deployment survey, what you do right now, as opposed to this is not theoretical. This is what you can do right now with an email, with an ad. And again, everything, I walk away from anything that compromises truth. What does that value mean? If I walk away from everything that compromises truth, how do you say that in copy without sounding really goofy? And it comes down to really simple things. Look, I say it plainly. I won't make this sound any easier than it is. These are like little phrases that you would use. And obviously there are thousands. Benson's trained on those. We're just giving you some examples here of ways to think through on how to communicate this and it's very subconscious. In other words, someone reading this isn't going to immediately go, oh, that person values freedom. It's just going to pick it up. They're going to pick it up subconsciously. And it'll be like, wow, I'm really connecting with this person or this offer, and I really don't know why. That's what I wanted to convey with this, not from a manipulative point of view, but from who you really are. And then you come down here, you can download, it's a lengthy report. Just download, get your free PDF, and yeah, you're off to the races, man.
Freebuyerprofile.com. John, I'm coming over to your place tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about putting that right in my dashboard of all of my apps for our users.
It is.
We'll talk about that tomorrow.
We are really proud of it, and it's very helpful to use. And obviously for you, Benson uses automatically with every piece of copy if you upgrade. And if you don't want to do that, you can just copy and paste it. And obviously you have to. It's not going to be as extensive because Benson uses it in much more extensive ways, but it's still folks, very handy to pull into chat.
Benson is bnsn.ai. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure you'll find it. But yeah, but
and John, I saw that when you enter it, like the first panel is like put in your offer. So start with your offer, and then you'll get to your values after.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't have an offer, you can just say my values and just type in, here's what I want to sell. And so, yeah, that's basically all you got to do. And we want to know a little bit more about you. And then we're going to ask just 10 questions. So it'll take you about, let's say, a minute per question, 10 minutes. You only type about 300 to 400 words per question, or I typed as little as 50. But just the more you type, the more the more deep the answers are going to be. And the more that we can figure out what words you should and shouldn't use. And phrases especially. And then we go, that report was a quick scan, but it goes into some really sophisticated NLP, probably some terminology that you haven't heard before, because it pulls from my NLP courses that are only found in Benson. So it's pretty cool. I think you'll really enjoy it. Donnie, you get off on it because it's
freebuyerprofile.com. Yeah. Todd, you said before you wanted to go through that, and you said, and then I have another question. Do you still remember that?
So I have a question that I've shared with, I've asked Rich, or we've kind of discussed it. I think I might have thrown it out to Donnie at one point as well. But access to these tools and these models, right, are everybody's getting access to the same tools, right? These, it's all being democratized, or some of these, right, it's being commoditized. Where is the advantage? And specifically, I want to hone that in a little bit. What skill do you feel, right? If I stepped away from the computer, I stepped away from Claude, I stepped away from AI, what skill or skills would you say I should be working on, or people should be working on, that will lead to an advantage with AI? Is it skills, critical thinking? Is it, question design? Like, what are the skill sets that I should be developing away from AI, so that when I come to AI, the same AI as everybody else has access to, I have an advantage?
I'll jump in here quick because there's a lot of answers, so I'm just going to give one, and I'd love to hear what the other guys are saying as well. One of the things that revolutionized AI in the last 6 months, and it's Anthropic, they're leading with all of these different things, and they came out with something called skills. Something that everybody will remember about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, when ChatGPT came out with these things called GPTs, and they were kind of like these pre-made, like, act like a lawyer, and it's like, here's your lawyer GPT. Skills took it on a whole nother level. So in a nutshell, what skills are is it's basically like a recipe or a standard operating procedure. It's like, hey, this is who you are, what the output should look like in a more complex way, what tools you have access to. You have access to Nano Banana. You need to do it like this. And I think I said this last week. It's like, it's the difference between asking for a chicken dish and then you get chicken a la king. And you're like, well, yeah, it's not what I wanted at all, but it is a chicken dish, right? To getting the chicken Parmesan flattened out like it was made in Brooklyn with a certain type of olive oil, certain type of breadcrumbs, like, and with the grated cheese put on right at the end before you take a bite. Yeah. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's what a skill is that. Now, there's a couple of different places that you can get pre-made skills, like at skill.sh. There's just an entire marketplace of skills. But one of the things that like Rich is like probably the best in the world at, honestly, at doing is creating skills. And Claude helps you create the skills. It actually creates the skills for you. You tell it what you want, show it some screenshots or whatever the case may be, and it'll write the skill. And so what you want to do, whether you're a one-man show or 15 people in your business, and you're starting to see this, it's terrible as they're laying people off. They're saying, hey, I want you to document everything you do in the last 2 weeks that you're here, record your screen and everything. And they're taking that and they're turning it into a skill. So you want to take every process that you look in your business as a standard operating procedure and then turn that into a skill. And now you have the ability to say, hey, I need to do a presentation. And then the presentation, like Rich is doing it, his slides are going to come out the same way every time, all the time, for anything that he's doing. And because he created all of these different skills. So for me, I would go to YouTube. I would look up Claude Code skills. There's lots of beginner videos. It's not very complicated. It's like making a GPT in the past, where you would say you are a direct response marketer. You are an attorney that's good with whatever, right? So this is on a much higher level. So that would be my take.
So what, so hang on. So what is the skill set that I should be working on to be able to execute there? Like that's ultimately
learning,
like if
learning how to make skills,
reading books, studying, learning, what's the skill set there? The
skill set that you need, and I know we're using the words here twice and it's not on purpose. The skill set that you need to learn, and it's like 50% of what Rich has been screaming from the rooftop is like, you need to learn what skills are and the power of it. So to learn that skill set, I would go to YouTube. I'd spend a few hours there, or certainly look up Rich's program. You want to learn this stuff and be the best in the world at it. Rich, a plug for you. Where would they find that?
Go to Strategic Profits. There's tons of different links all over the place to Force Multiplier.
Strategicprofits.com.
Will that help them, Rich, connect the dots?
It will help them connect the dots.
Okay, so learning, really mastering skills within the AI context of skills. That's what you're saying, Mike.
Yeah, they have something that when you tell Claude Code to go do something, like they have things called, Donnie, you remember the first time I showed you these things, like I showed you the front end design skill and you like, but like, can it do mobile optimization? I said, let's create a mobile optimization skill. Let's create an SEO skill. So this is something when you're done with your page, it goes and it looks on it for what Google wants and it identifies. So you could create a skill for anything. And then now, and it's like a reusable thing. And it's the same thing that we do in our company. Like when somebody used to scream, why in the world are we doing it like that? Well, I don't know. Well, it's your fault as an owner. You don't have a standard operating procedure for your team to tell you, like, this is how we do things in the company. And so by having a folder of skills, and here's the beautiful thing, Todd, Claude knows when to use those skills. It has a list of all the skills with a paragraph of what each skill does, and it keeps that in memory. So we always use this thing that, like, when Neo was talking to, or Morpheus was talking to Neo, right? It was like they entered into a problem and they were like, hey, back home, we need this. And he's plugged in back in the Matrix. And the next thing you know, he's like, whoa, I know Kung Fu. And like, he just knew it. He just knew it. So skills are a way to plug in anything. You want it to be Hoist Gracie, you put the Hoist Gracie skill and your AI turns into this master of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so it's
love it. I love Mike. I know Mike's love language now is movie references. That's like the third or fourth one on this
definitely his love language.
And so I love it. So Donnie, what would you say? I know, like, skill set. What should I be? I mean, skill set. Yeah, I should have came up with a better word to not confuse people.
Nah, it's all good.
Skills for skill set.
Yeah. Like, so Donnie, what is away from it? Right. You and I used to talk about, right, like, articulation or clarity of communication, right? Like, is that a skill that you think people need to develop to gain an advantage with AI? Is it critical thinking? Is it the ability to form questions? Is it, what Rich is one of the best at, to me, in the world, like seeing connections where others don't? What would you have me work on away from AI?
Away from AI.
In other words, a skill or ability that I could develop that would make me better at using AI, that would give me an advantage over everybody else when using AI.
Yeah, it's a skill I learned from Rich, which is like to think deeper. Like if I'm, and it specifically when we're talking about research, right? Research is the backbone of every great letter that was ever written, right? So it's like normally my research would go a few layers deep, and then I'm like, I got it, I'm there. This is what I need. Rich has pushed me to be like, okay, so you want to learn about the modern day titanium driver? Cool. Why would you stop at like the titanium driver? Why wouldn't you go back to the aluminum? Why wouldn't you go back to the wood driver? Why wouldn't you go back to the person who invented the driver and came up with it and why he thought about it, and like really download the entire like opus of the driver to understand, like think way deeper than I normally would think, to be able to have just the foundational knowledge that leads to the thing that I'm actually researching, which is going to lead to the thing that I'm going to write about.
So to push you a little bit there, right? So, right, to me, it sounds like what you're saying. John, jump in here. If there's a better way, you probably have a better way to articulate this than me. But so Donnie, what you're describing to me sounds like a mindset. What's the skill or ability that I could work on to think differently? Is it like study different thinking models?
No, I think, well, it could be. The skill that I'm working on actively, and no one's teaching me this. I'm just watching Rich do this. I watch you do this, live calls. Like I'm watching Mike do this. John and I aren't on as many calls anymore these days. But I used to watch John do this when we were working on copy. Is just listening very closely to the way you're asking questions and trying to understand the why he asked the question that way versus this way, and how that leads to a different, when I say depth, like to a different layer of what we're researching, right? The question, 99% of the time, if Rich and I are talking about something and we've done this test and he asks a question and I ask a question and I don't hear his, mine is never even remotely as strong as his question is. Like the way he frames the question that he's trying to answer is like it's like a scope.
If I could throw something in there that I see Rich like a buckshot. One of the things Rich does that is really good in his questions is Rich knows that these language models are very agreeable. And he knows just by asking a question and giving an example, like I'll just give like an example. Hey, if you were to say, who's the best basketball player of all time? If you just throw in, for example, Shaq or something like that, it's now going to start giving you, just because you threw that example, it's going to give you a reason why Shaq is the best basketball player. And Rich will push back and be like, and don't use Shaq just because I told it to you. And don't think you need to answer this just because I'm saying this. Push back if I'm wrong. I want to know what you think. And then when the answer comes back, Rich will challenge it. And he's like, yeah, but, you know, and he's pushing back. So Rich has this discussion until it knows that the AI fully understands this question. And then he's like, okay, now I'm going to let you loose.
Yeah. I'll give you a real life example of something. Yeah.
Right there. Really quick, Donnie, right there, Mike, right. See, to me, right. And there are other things very similar to this that I've gleaned from Rich and that I've gleaned from Donnie, that, right. You knowing how the LLMs operate, or you knowing how the AI works, gives you an advantage because you know what is a better question or what biases the AI, or because you understand, that's huge to me.
Like if I want really good feedback, I never tell it it's mine. I tell it it's someone else's, and I see some problems in it, and let's rip this apart, right? Like it'll get like, you know, if I say it's mine and how can I make this better, it's going to be totally different.
Yeah, see, that is brilliant. That's right, Mike. Like, see that to me, it like learning what Rich knows or understands about AI. I feel gives the
Isn't that somewhat like street smarts though? Like street smarts tied in like a little bit. Like, but I knowing how to bullshit like correctly, almost like, you know what I mean? It's like, it really is. It's like knowing when to push a little bit because you know, like, the AI is full of shit, and you can kind of tell.
You can preload the AI with that. Like I've done it in ChatGPT, and I do it in Claude. Like they have what's known as like in your settings about me. Yeah, and so not only in those drop downs, like I tell it things like I hate introductions. I hate conclusions. Like when I ask for output, I just want to be able to copy paste. I don't want it to say, here, Mike, here's your output. If you have any other questions,
straight truth about this.
Yeah. And I tell it, I don't need you to be agreeable. I need you to be curt. I need you to be matter of fact. My AI is a jerk. And I had to learn when I left ChatGPT 4, that thing, and we all know it, right? That thing was like, great question, Rich. I can tell you really, I was like, wow, this is making me feel good. And then I started realizing, I'm just getting glazed to speak like a Gen Z kid.
Just one thing to add to this, Mike. I think what I was saying, Todd, because you said outside of AI, is like, I'm actually saying that, and I'll use a real example. This is like, it's tied to AI, but it's outside of AI. So like the reason Rich can ask these questions and reasonably think he can get the answers in a quick, in rapid time, or a couple days of his agents working, is because he has the AI. Like without the AI, the questions he's asking would be insanely difficult to get to these answers, or it would take massive rabbit holes, right? Yeah. So we were talking about logistics, and I wanted to like build frameworks to be able to compare our logistic protocols for our products going around the world to how many countries against like frameworks of the best logistics companies. So the question I was going to ask when we started this project, and I was saying this to Rich, is like, cool, I just want to study the top logistics companies in the world. And he's like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. He's like, I kind of want to know like, who was the first thought leader that actually wrote about logistics before they were implementing any type of like logistical strategy? I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. So he found these thought leaders, and he's like, oh, okay, that's really cool. Who did those guys study? And then he went to the layer past who those guys study. Then once he got that all broken down, now he took that knowledge base and the frameworks that he could derive from that knowledge, and then said, hey, how does this apply to these top 3 companies who do this around the world? Okay, cool. Now, what are they doing differently in this new modern era compared to the old framework? Okay, here it is. Great. Now we have this. Now, AI, compare that to what we're doing and tell us how we could take from this to implement and
if I could turn that into a movie metaphor for you, Donnie, there was a TV show called Connections with Richard Attenborough, and it would start out with, in the 1600s, there was a man in Venice that invented this. We're going to talk about how that led to getting a man on the moon. You're like, what? How did that? Like, and
that's exactly what it is.
He would walk you through, and then this had happened, and the cotton gin, and because of that, it solved this problem, and a chemist found it, and so Rich is like reverse engineering and finding.
And this is the big point, because I think this is the most important thing for anyone using AI, at least from my perspective. In all the conversations of the team members I've onboarded, the people I've tried to manipulate into using AI, including family member, everybody I've tried to, convert, that I've proselytized to, that it's like there's infinite possibilities with AI right now. And the only thing standing between you and those infinite possibilities is you. And then the next layer to that is this thinking model that I've learned from Rich, which is like, recognize that your own thinking is too small. Like, you now have the ability to think bigger. It's like self-help principles, right? Self-mastery principles. You're actually able to not only think bigger, but think way further and deeper, back to the origins of the information that you're trying to learn about. And it totally
I think
changes.
The question, though, Donnie, to just push it for 1 second, and then I want to hear from John, really, but is, so you're telling them, right, what to do. And I'm ultimately asking, okay, so how do you do that? What, like, so merely telling somebody think bigger, like think bigger, like, okay, so how do I learn to think bigger?
Well, I think
you got to get in the gym and start throwing jabs. You got to go to the gym.
Did you guys see the article? It was on. I can't remember if it was Claude publishing it or it was about Claude. I don't remember. But they were asking the question, why are copywriters the best prompt engineers? Was basically it. And you can take that from prompt engineers to skill creators to whatever. It's just basically the same basic thing. And the reason why is they narrowed this down to emotional intelligence. Copywriters are trained on empathy. Copywriters are trained to think empathetically. And their suggestion is like, look, if you want to get better at talking to AI, get better at emotional intelligence. And there's a book called Emotional Intelligence that everyone can read right now. This is a great starting book for this, but just understanding that it sounds completely non sequitur, but it isn't, because once you learn that it's how you're communicating to AI, is yes, you can put the parameters in that Mike has, but the better the communications are, including in how you're explaining skills, the better you are. According to, and this is according to the people that work there, that you get better results when you communicate with more empathetic skills. So yeah, I say improving your communication skills is a great place that's non-AI to be better at AI.
I've got a couple ideas too that I'd love to share. The one I don't know that I think I might have shared this last week. So stop me if I did. But the Harvard Business Review article. Did I talk about that?
No, you didn't talk about it. So
okay. Fresh. So all right. So when I had a messed up childhood. When I went to college, I went to a college that nobody knew me. So I realized when I went to college that I could be somebody totally different. Right? Nobody knew me. I could be like who Rich Schefren was completely nothing at that moment. And so I decided to be someone other than who I was in high school. And I was very happy that I did. Like I had a different life in college and I enjoyed it. 2007, I'm sitting in my office and I'm reading, it's like 2:00 in the morning. I'm working on a report. This guy who works for me, Carl, he had outsourced a project to a ghostwriter. And it's 3:00 in the morning. Like I'm working on a report, but I'm taking a break. So I'm reading the February 2006 Harvard Business Review, and the cover story article is The Great Intimidators. And it's about
you did share this.
Yeah. Right. And so for me, reading that, I've decided with AI that I want to be a great intimidator. I want to be like Steve Jobs. I want to be like, make a phone with no buttons. I don't know how you do it, but just make a phone with no buttons, right? And it's really like that. When, it's like I showed the people I was teaching this course with, right? Because I bet you none of them have ever done this. And so the AI is creating a handoff document, right? And I'm like, great. I'm like, what did you leave out of the handoff document? And it gives me 7 things. And I'm like, okay, but what else did you leave out? Gives me another 7 things. And I'm like, yeah, that's still not what I'm looking for. What else did you leave out? Gives me another 6 things. So that's 20 things that it left off the handoff document, right? And then finally, I'm like, you're still missing. And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about because I can't find anything else. And I'm like, oh, my bad. Okay, that's good enough, right? And that's Jobs thing. He would have done something like that. And I want to channel that because I don't generally ask. I'm always afraid to ask too much from people, right? But I'm not afraid to ask too much of AI.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd say, Todd,
this is the skill, Todd. Thank you.
The other thing that I'd say where I've learned a lot is, and I don't know that this answers the question directly, but where I've seemed to learn a lot is I find a video on YouTube, I take that transcript into Claude because they're doing something cool and I want to do that too. And now that conversation about how do I do that, I could just have it do it, right? But how do they do that? What's going on here? I get an education, or I go to GitHub because I'm working on a memory system, and I'm like, what are all? I ask Claude, what are all the best, most starred gits on memory systems that I should take a look at, and then let's take a look at each one and explain to me what that system has that mine doesn't, and why I might want to do that. And I find that a lot of those times, I learn a tremendous amount in those back and forth because there's so much I don't know, right? There's a ridiculous amount that I don't know. I don't have the code background that Mike has, right? And the only programming I ever did was front page HTML. That was the extent of it. So there's always so much for me to learn. And I find that it really is good at being able to take a YouTube video and break it apart, or a Substack article and break it apart. And I find that and it's, and maybe because
deconstruct.
Yeah. And maybe because I'm bringing it, it's something I'm interested in. It's something that I wanted. It's not generic, right? This is something oh, that's really cool. I want to do that, right? And I find that I learn the most doing that.
And I'll give one warning on this, Mike, because I have made this mistake doing what I watch Rich do. Do that deep dive, that depth of thinking, asking the questions you wouldn't ask, creating the persona you wouldn't create, all those things, everything Rich is saying, do that separately from the Claude Code instance or the chat window that you're in, that you're actually going to do the thing that creates the output from that information. Because what I've found in those deep dives, if I get super excited on what I'm finding and it's creating badass frameworks and I automatically go into implement and test in that, that instance, One,
Well,
it tries too much context. So like separate it, new Claude instance, point at thing that you just created, restart, go for your output.
Yeah,
and that has
do it in chunks.
So
Hey guys,
let me talk
I
on
got a
that.
10. I got a
I
bolt.
do too. I'm actually
So
9:30,
my bad.
so I'm off
I
too.
hate this because it's a great
Yeah,
conversation.
we'll wrap up in 30 seconds. And if
Oh,
you got to
cool,
run,
cool.
John, just wait till you hit 100% in your browser, so we get all your stuff in there. So yeah,
All right,
so
brother.
Donnie, take it easy, John.
Hi, John.
In development, and just to put a bow on what you guys were saying, Todd, to wrap it up, like how somebody should look at it. If they have kids, they'll understand. Be curious like a 3-year-old, right? Like when a kid says to the parents, "Why is the sky blue?" right? And then the parents gives an answer, and the kid goes, "Yeah, but why?" And then the parents, and then get to the parent to the point where it goes, "Well, I don't know. I don't know." After
Yeah,
that,
it's funny. That's a great example, Mike.
Why.
I did that yesterday for 6 hours with my daughter. So we loaded all her grades from middle school all the way through high school into the AI. We loaded all her aspirations or dreams, where she thinks she wants to go to college, everything. And I had the AI build an entire like realistic roadmap for how she gets into the school she wants to go, exactly the steps she needs to do month by month between now taking SATs, applying, meetings, interviews, every single thing. And the whole 6-hour session, we were just asking more questions and more questions and more questions. And the question that we ended on, which is where I wanted to end, is why do you want to go to college? And getting underneath to understand the why actually it immediately went to like, well, I don't know, and so I don't want to go to college. No, there were reasons that she wanted to go. And the why that she came up with ended up leading to like different schools that she would go to because they would produce the outcomes that she's potentially looking for later in life. And it all started by just like, why, how, what, where, when, why, like back and forth for hours. And it was unbelievable how the AI took it. Like I couldn't pay any advisor $1 million to give me the information and the roadmap that we got yesterday in 6 hours working with AI to get her like fully roadmapped of how to get into the college she wants to get into. Yeah. And I believe this plan completely.
Yeah. And Donnie, to wrap up on what you said, and then I guess we'll wrap it up for today. You were talking about having this long conversation with ChatGPT and understanding that there's a lot of information there, but it's bloating a context window. You don't go from there to say, okay, now let's go do this. So in development, when we're creating software, there's a workflow for that. And so especially with AI and Claude Code. So what I'll do is I'll start a Claude Code session. And let's say I'm doing competitive analysis. Why does school do this? And should I put this in courses.gg? I want to build an 80-20 app. And we're going back and forth. And finally, when you're done, we create 2 different things. And like, I'll even say to the AI, here's what I want you to do. I want you to understand I'm handing this off to an agent that is going to be you with amnesia. We'll have no idea of what we're talking about. I want you to codify all of these things. And you could look this up and say, how do you use it for Obsidian direct response? But in development, there's 2 things we do. We create a PRD, which is a production ready document, and a TRD, which is a technical requirements document. So like the technical is about like the stack and how we're going to do the file structure. But again, Rich and you guys want that for how you're going to do different things, like where to put the information. And then the other one is the production ready. What are we building? Because I spoke about different things. I don't want it in the context. We already said I'm not creating the live stream feature. So you just have it create 1 or 2 different markdown documents to codify everything, throw it into the side as memory, start a new session, and you've got this brand new context window that says, "Do you see this file? Yeah, go build it." And it has instructions on everything without all the waste of the other tokens in there where you were arguing with it, right?
Yeah, I can't share this publicly, but I just sent you something I'm building, which will just make you chuckle and laugh that I'm the one putting this together, and it's exactly what you're saying. Because everything we're building now is building it from my new thing. And I don't know if you guys are doing this, but this is like a thing that I started testing the other day with Todd, and it's supercharging results. I love the confirm my intent, tell me what I'm not seeing, like at the end of when I'm in an instance. But now my new thing is like confirm my intent, see and think like an agent and deliver the information like an engineer when we're developing when we're coding. And dude, the outputs are like so
say
much
that again.
better. confirm my intent, see and
Yeah.
think like an agent, and deliver the information like an engineer.
Like an engineer. Interesting.
What does that mean? See and think like an agent.
Like I read this on X. I don't remember. I can't remember the post now because now I have all my posters automated reviews. But whoever posted this on X was basically like, you are talking to your Claude code like it's a human, and you want it to hear you like a human, but to think and see in front of you like an agent would, like agents would see, not
So
like humans would see.
It's a language model, and as a language model, it likes to mimic humans. So you're giving it permission. It's almost like an instruction, like you are a highly effective agent at critical thinking, not a human, right? So
the most basic thing that the most basic thing that it will do well for me, Rich, is like I oftentimes forget to have it use agent teams or spin up agent swarms, or like there's tasks that like I probably should be doing that, but I'm not telling it to. And oftentimes it won't, it'll just do 1 or 2 agents instead of like really building on a team so that every agent has a domain and they're focused on that domain. When you tell it to see and think like an agent, almost every time it creates agent teams and then tells you what domain they're in, and then they're going to go. Like
so it's confirm my intent, see and think like an agent, and deliver it like you're delivering to an engineer.
Deliver it like an engineer, but I bet that would be even better.
Like you are an engineer.
What Rich just said would be even better, because
an engineer
literally
to an engineer.
The reason I did this, the engineer piece, is because of that link I just sent you, Mike. I'm literally delivering documentation to engineers, and I don't want it to be in my copywriter language. It needs to be an engineering language. So like this is delivered like an engineer is going to understand. It has all the codes.
Speaking their language.
Speaking their language.
It's got and one more thing, and we'll wrap it up here, is in development.
Starting to not believe him.
I promise we're going to wrap up here. The thing that's working really well is when you're having agent teams like create like different things. They're creating the devil's advocate agent. It's kind of like the critic or cynic, right? And so this agent is just programmed to question everything,
go smash everything.
Why wouldn't we use this? And then you have the other 5 agents defend their position, and 1 out of 5 times the critic is like right, and like why are we overcomplicating this? So you have this devil's advocate or critic agent that questions everything.
That's
and he can't help himself.
Another big like last thing, and now we can really go, is I know you guys probably in your Claude Code instances use task lists where you can see the tasks that it's working on. Now with like what's really interesting is I've put that at like the JSON settings for the main repo, so that when anybody pulls down what they're doing, they pull the repo down locally. They have that task list feature built in, but I don't even know how Claude did this, but somehow the task list in each instance now has it divided up where I can see the tasks that are happening.
Did you add the superpower skill and forget that you did that? Because that sounds like
superpower skill all the time, but it shows me the task list from the other agents from like other instances that are totally.
You're using superpowers, which is like planning mode on fucking super steroids. It gets in the way. It asks you a lot of questions.
Todd, we use that.
But what happens, you'll start noticing like, Claude, just fucking do what I'm telling you. Excuse my language. Just do what I'm telling you to do. It's asking you all these questions, but superpowers is about clarity. And then it creates a spec document, and then like it one-shots everything. So Rich, if you're not using superpowers, look into it, what it does. And like,
I'm familiar with it. I never downloaded that one, and I never downloaded the Y Combinator guys one. What's that one? Gary something?
Ralph Loop?
No. It's but I'm familiar.
Superpower slows you down. It uses that kind of like measure twice, cut once thing, and like you have to be ready for it to ask you 7 questions. But you're like, okay, that's a good question. I didn't think about that. And then your output gets crystal clear. So it's a little slower, but your output's always going to be better.
How's their brainstorming tool? Because that one looked appealing to me from Superpowers.
It's all in there, so it knows.
I know, but like, have you used it?
Yeah, well, it forces me to. Right. It forces me to. I don't even know that's happening. I'm like, hey, I want to do this. And it'll be like, let's brainstorm this. Why are you looking to do this? Are you looking to do this for this reason? I'm like, all right, these are good questions. I guess I have to take the time to do it. So it does slow down a different flow that you're used to, but it's all about like Todd, you would know this, Donnie, you would know this. It's about like the copywriter that you hired to do your copy. And you're like, if you don't know better, you think he's just going to go do it. But no, he wants to fly out to you and spend 3 days with you. You're like, do we really need to do that? Right? He's like, yeah, I need to know why you wake up in the morning, right? And that is what superpowers does. It is getting into the DNA of the output that you want, and then you get perfect output.
Love it.
All right, guys. So stick around for 1 second, guys. Well, let me just say goodbye to everybody. All right, everybody, that wraps up. We'll see you in the next one. If you liked this episode and it did anything for you, let us know in the comments. Make sure to like, comment, and please subscribe and share it with other people that you think will like this. And we'll see you in the next Wicked Smart podcast.
We're going live, baby. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The Wicked Smart Podcast. We're dropping truth, baby.